America's hidden crimes. The Toy Box Killer. Inside a small desert town stood a trailer, a place locals called the Toy Box. What was inside changed everything they thought they knew about evil. There are serial killers whose names we all know. Dahmer, Bundy, Gacy. But there's one whose crimes were so horrific, even the FBI tried to keep the details from the public. His name was David Parker Ray, better known as the Toy Box Killer. And what investigators found inside his trailer is something no human being should ever have to see. David Parker Ray lived in a small town called Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. A name that now feels like a cruel joke. To his neighbors, he was quiet, polite, just another mechanic working at the local park service. He owned a few dogs, had a girlfriend named Cindy Hendy, and often fixed people's engines for free. But behind that calm smile, he was building something. Inside a white trailer near Elephant Butte Lake, Ray spent years constructing what he called his toy box. It was soundproofed, lined with mirrors, filled with ropes, chains, pulleys, and surgical tools. He even installed a homemade electric chair, and on one of the walls, a large sign read, "When the FBI raided the trailer years later, they found something even more disturbing. A cassette tape labeled 'For My New Slave.' On the tape, David Parker Ray's voice could be heard describing in detail what his victims would endure. He warned them they were now his property, that they'd be used, tortured, and disposed of. He spoke calmly, like someone reading a manual. It was more than a confession. It was a ritual. Investigators would later estimate that he may have abducted and tortured over 60 women. But here's the most horrifying part. Not one body has ever been found. For years, Ray and his girlfriend Cindy Hendy operated in silence. Until one day, their luck ran out. In March 1999, a woman named Cynthia Vigil was abducted from the streets of Albuquerque. She was chained in Ray's trailer, tortured for days. But unlike the others, she survived. When Ray left the trailer, Cindy Hendy accidentally dropped the keys to the chains. Cynthia freed herself, grabbed an ice pick, and stabbed Hendy before running half-naked through the desert. Wearing only a dog collar and padlock around her neck, she burst into a nearby trailer, screaming for help. When police arrived, she told them, "He's going to kill more women. Please, go get them." Her escape blew open one of the most gruesome investigations in American history. When authorities searched the trailer, what they found was beyond anything they had imagined. There were surgical instruments covered in blood, a gynecologist's chair bolted to the floor, chains hanging from the ceiling, hundreds of Polaroid photos of women, unconscious, restrained, terrified, and that tape still playing like a recorded nightmare. In a hidden compartment, they found diaries, meticulous logs of torture sessions that spanned decades. Ray had written down the dates, times, and even the names of some victims. One of his tools was a wooden contraption he called the device. He described it as a gynecology table with built-in restraints and electrical components. It looked like something out of hell. David Parker Ray was arrested, along with his girlfriend Cindy Hendy and 2 accomplices. His daughter, Glenda Jean, and a friend named Dennis Yancey. The charges included kidnapping, sexual assault, and torture. But prosecutors faced a problem. There were no bodies. Ray had perfected his crimes, removing evidence, erasing lives. Without physical proof of murder, they could only charge him for the survivors. In 2001, he was sentenced to over 200 years in prison. Cindy Hendy received 36 years for her part in the crimes. But the story doesn't end there. Less than 2 years into his sentence, David Parker Ray died of a heart attack in his cell. He never confessed, never revealed where the bodies were. To this day, the FBI believes there are still dozens of victims whose remains have never been found. The desert around Elephant Butte Lake has been searched multiple times, but the sand keeps its secrets. Neighbors who once waved to Ray now refuse to talk about him. And the trailer, his toy box, was dismantled. But parts of it, investigators say, are still kept in FBI storage, hidden from the public eye because of their disturbing nature. Some officers who worked the case later said they had nightmares for years. One described it best. You could smell the evil in that place. The toy box killer didn't just take lives. He erased them. No names, no graves, no peace. Just the echo of screams in a trailer in the desert. If you think this was disturbing, wait until you hear about the next case. Another true story buried deep in America's dark history. A family that smiled for the cameras right before everything went to hell. Join me next time on America's Hidden Crimes.